we thought, we see the same thing happening at our school right now. And we've talked about it, like ELA, they've hit the standards already. So now we're going back in, they're spiraling. Those constantly are spiraling. You don't just teach them in one succession. Where math, there was quite a bit of content that they haven't hit those standards yet. And so that's where we saw like a big difference between ELA and math. Like math just hasn't covered all of their standards yet. At PM2.
That reminds me of conversations that I've had with my team, though. Jake, can you speak to that?
Yeah, so just one thing to remember, and you're right, it is a much bigger deal in the math class than it is in the ELA class when we think about pacing. But remember, we're not looking at scale scores or levels, we're looking at percentiles. And so when I'm looking at the percentile as it has changed from last year's PM3 to PM1 to PM2, I'm looking at a comparison of what my students have done to what all the other students have done. And I'm not the only teacher in the state of Florida that's only taught half of my content or a third of my content or whatever that fractional piece of my benchmarks that I've covered. Granted, depending on what curriculum I've used, maybe I taught this subset and another teacher taught another subset, but no one in Florida is done by December. And so it's still apples to apples. And if there are teachers who are outpacing me or their students are outpacing my students, maybe they're doing something that I'm not doing that I could have been doing. Luckily at PM2, I still have time to do.